With the Foraging Update Alpha having been open for a little while now, I wanted to take the time to go over a progression guide so that you as a player can understand how you are going to get started in Galatea and how you will become a lot stronger. Before we begin though, I just want to say, please make sure to like and subscribe down below as it really helps out the channel a lot, and use code RAIL on the Hypixel store for 5% off your order. It really is the best way to support the channel. Without any further ado though, let's get started. Starting off here, we're going to go over the park and how it fundamentally works in this new update. It's not too hard to get to the park, you just have to do a new foraging quest in the hub. You can then come over here as long as you're in the new version, and basically there's simple quests to get you between all the different islands. It's nothing too crazy, just gather a bunch of logs or do a bunch of XYZ, but once you're at the last island, the jungle island, you'll be able to head over to Galatea as long as you're foraging level 12 or above. Once you're in Galatea, the first thing you're going to do is speak to Hina. Hina will talk to you about the heart of the forest, and I won't cut any corners here. This is just the heart of the mountain, but for foraging. It is extremely useful though. Basically how it works is you get forest whispers, this is just the equivalent of powder, and you use that powder or forest whisper to level up a bunch of stat boosts. There is a ton of tiers, as you can see it goes all the way up to tier 7, so the question is how are we going to level this up, how are we going to get a lot of forest whispers, and how does Galatea actually work? So as we move forward, the first thing I want to say to you is that if you don't have a Tricapitator, it's actually fine, because there's a place you can pick up some new axes, or some decent axes, at least for now. Right here in this little shop, you can see a seriously damaged axe, a decent axe for under 1,000,000 coins, a canopy mask, shirt, pants, and sandals, and I highly recommend you pick all of this up because it is going to be useful for you. Another NPC that I recommend you talk to is Swoop over here, and you'll speak to Swoop as part of your base quest. Once you click on him, he'll actually provide you a ton of information as to how the foraging islands work. So, basically, there are axe throwing. Basically how this works is that you can throw your axe at a tree, and it reduces the amount of logs you obtain by half, so you only throw when needed. There's sweep, toughness, and styles. So sweep increases the amount of logs you can cut in a row with your axes, toughness reduces the effect of sweep, and each tree has a different style. And you can see that on the top here. So fig trees have a toughness of 7, and you go from the trunk to the branches, and with my current amount of sweep, I'll be able to cut 9.9 logs in a row. There's also milestones for these trees, and as you can see, the mangrove is a lot tougher, 50 overall toughness, so I can only cut 2.1 logs in a row. And that goes from the branches to the trunk to the roots. And as you can see, if I click on it, you can actually get a bunch of upgrades and benefits just from collecting the tree gifts, which you get for chopping down the trees. It's one guaranteed every single time, as you can see here. As long as you chop down 10% of a tree, you're going to get a gift. 20% you get 50% more rewards, and 33% of the tree you get double rewards. And you can also look through the loot pools here. Lastly, there's berries, but that matters a little bit less. They're just all around Galatea. You right click them and boom, you get some berries. There's also little guys that may pop out at you. These are just kind of things that you can lasso or throw nets at. I like to lasso them because I think the lasso mechanic is fun. This is something more related to hunting and is not really in the scope of this video, but if you want to learn more about hunting, you can go to David over here. He has a full list of everything related to it, and I'm pretty certain the main quest line will take you here too to do a bunch of hunting stuff. So with all of that intro out of the way, how do you actually progress? Well, you're going to take your new axe or your Tricapitator if you already have it, and you're going to start chopping down some trees. Shocking, I know. Basically, what you're going to want to do is chop down a ton of fig trees, at least for the early game. And that's because fig trees are ridiculously useful for getting you the upgrades that you may want in the early game. If I head over to collections and head over to foraging collections, the first thing we'll see here is fig log. And as you can see, at first it doesn't seem super useful, but as we go through, you get this fig hue. And this is pretty cool because it has the ability Frenzy, which allows you to gain sweep for every 2,000 logs that you mine or break on Galatea for a max of 20, giving you 27 total sweep. That doesn't sound super crazy, but the craft is incredibly easy, and if you're not using the Tricapitator, I highly recommend making this item because it's also able to be upgraded into the Fig Stone Splitter, which you get at tier 6. You can also get Fig Stone here, which is just the enchanted or compacted form of enchanted fig logs. That gets you a base of 24 sweep with the ability Super Frenzy, which gains +1 sweep for every 10,000 logs cut on Galatea up to a max of 20. The crafting recipe for this isn't actually so bad, it's just the hue and 4 fig stone, so it's very clear here the main thing you're going to be doing here is getting figs, and that keeps on going. There's a forest shard here called the Sparrow. This gives you Fig Fortune. It's just a lot of enchanted fig log and a super enchanted egg as well as enchanted feathers. Good use of super enchanted eggs here. And then at tier 8, we get the big thing, which is the Fig Cap, Fig Mail, Fig Trousers, and the Fig Striders. Another upgrade to your armor made entirely out of Fig Stone. So keep that in mind. Most of the upgrades here that you're going to want are in the Fig collection. That is basically it in terms of the armor and weapons, by the way. Like, there's nothing beyond the Fig Stone Splitter, at least at the moment. However, at tier 9, you'll notice something interesting. You get a Foraging level cap increase. That is how they do level cap increases in this update. They're not guaranteed or not given to you at the start. When you level up certain collections to max, as you can see, Mangrove is another one. I think Sea Loomies are another one. No, they're not. Is Vine Sap? Nope. So it's just Mangrove and Fig Logs that you're able to get the level cap from right now. So if the Fig collection is the main way to actually progress in Galatea, what do the other collections do? So the Tenderwood collection you get from chopping down fig trees as well. It's just an extra additional drop within the tree gift system. This is basically how you're going to get a bunch of hunting traps, which are pretty useful, and also this new accessory line, which gives you an increased chance of finding a rare shard, which is good, once again, for hunting. Mangrove is how you're going to get equipment and other interesting items. So your travel scrolls are here. For example, all of the equipment pieces are here, as well as reforged stones are in this collection. So you're going to want to level this up too, although it's less immediate in my opinion. And at the end of it, you do get another foraging level cap increase. Vine Sap you get more specifically from the mangrove trees. This is another tree gift drop. And from here, you're going to get these hunt axes, which allow you to, well, hunt. Also better lassos, which is another hunting thing. So this one, once again, is pretty much entirely hunting related. And at the end, you get a pretty cool hunting tool. Then we have the lush lilacs. These are the berries that were talked about a little bit, and they allow you to get some cool little salts. Once again, a thing for hunting specifically. And you'll also get, as you can see at the end, just a nice salt at the end. Sea loomies you get in the water in the middle of Galatea. This is how you're going to get fishing nets, as well as some pretty cool items to allow you to survive the underwater area a little bit better. And look at that, there's diver armor. So currently how it works is that you can pick up snorkeling armor at the bottom over here. Hold on, let me get over there. So when you dive in the water now on Galatea, there's actually a brand new pressure system, and you don't want to get a ton of pressure because if you go too deep, your bubbles run out instantly and you start taking massive damage, right? So you're like, okay, how do I level up this system? Well, over here, there's a guy named Nemo, and he's pretty useful because he provides you with snorkeling gear for relatively cheap. This gives you pressure resistance, which allows you to go deeper underwater. Respiration makes your bubbles deplete a little bit slower. He also gives you Respiration 4, which is pretty cool. Now, the way that you actually upgrade that is through the Sea Loomies collection, which is right here, as you can see. There you can get diver armor. So if you have diver armor currently, you get to skip a step in the Sea Loomies progression. You won't have to worry about this upon release. It's now just snorkeling armor, enchanted sea loomies, and this gill membrane, which you get from the guys down there as well. That is eventually upgraded and crafted into abyssal armor, which gives you, well, even more pressure resistance, even more overall stats here, and just is better for diving deep into the, depths of the water. You get that with gill membrane once again, and enchanted sea loomies. Same deal, nothing too crazy there. The rest of the set is built around some artifacts, as well as some fishing nets, so don't worry too much about that if you're looking just for pure progression. The initial gameplay loop should be pretty clear at this point. What you're going to want to do is just chop down a ridiculously large amount of fig trees until you have all of the collections you need unlocked, Then you're going to make the fig stone cutter as well as the fig cap set, and then you're going to be pretty much set to continue grinding. At the meantime, or during the time that you're doing this, you're going to be getting a ton of rewards. The tree gifts give you things like Heart of the Forest experience, they give you a ton of foraging XP, they give you tender wood, you're going to be getting vine sap if you're chopping down the mangrove trees, so you will be doing a lot in terms of actually leveling up the things that matter. But if you want to do so more efficiently, you may want to look at the right side of my screen. Currently, there's a contest going on called Agatha's Contest, and I highly recommend you unlock those relatively quickly. You can find Agatha at the big tree in the middle. She's just right here. She looks pretty interesting. And basically how this works is that every single Skyblock day, Agatha holds a contest for everyone currently on the Moonglade Marsh. Doing activities while on the marsh grant you points. Reaching point brackets will earn you even greater rewards. And as you can see, here's the breakdown, and here's how many points are required in order to get every single bracket. So you're not really competing against people here. This is much more cooperative. The useful part here, and as you can see, is that you get a lot of Heart of the Forest XP and a lot of foraging experience and also a ton of Forest Whispers from doing this. So I highly recommend you do so. And you also get Forest Essence, which I'll show off in a moment. There's a bunch of milestones here, which get you further upgrades, as well as the reward claiming area, which I could just claim a bunch of them all at once. There's a shop where you can spend a bunch of these upgrades. Pretty cool here, you get these Agatha coupons from completing the event in the first place, so if you're doing this active, you're going to be able to pick up a lot of this stuff extremely quickly. There's also the personal best system, which is nothing crazy. The TLDR, though, is that you're going to be able to do the Agatha contest pretty much anywhere in Galatea. I know it says on the Moonglade Marsh, but I think it still counts, like, even if you're far away. Like, I'm not in the Moonglade Marsh right now, and I'm pretty sure I could chop down this tree, and if I do it, yeah, I get a bunch of points anyway. So keep that in mind. You do get points pretty much anywhere in Galatea. In terms of some of the other auxiliary features, heading to the top of this ruin over here, we can find Rosemary. This is where you're going to trade in your forest essence. So if you want to get these upgrades, I recommend the pressure ones. Make sure you get those. You can also get upgrades for traps, which is for hunting. Stats on your axes are 2% stronger. That one's probably pretty good. Foraging, fortune, berry items are stronger. Gives you more foraging wisdom. Stuff like that is going to be incredibly useful for you. There are a few other auxiliary things that I wanted to go over kind of briefly. There's this beacon over here which you can tune. This is kind of like a little mini game. Basically how it works is you're going to match the top beat to the bottom beat which you control. So it's lime and it's slow. So I go over here. I set it to lime. I'm going to keep its speed at 5 until it catches back around. And that looks like a speed 1 sort of movement. Maybe speed 2. I'll pause it real quick. Alright, maybe I have to set it to 2 and then back to 1. Now it's moving at the same rate. And I set its tune to be the same, and boom, I just got a bunch of upgrades as well as the enchanted fig log and the enchanted mangrove log. Basically how this all works is that you come around and you do this and you get a bunch of stacks of this buff. It's an island-wide effect, so everyone who does this gets a stack or adds a stack to everybody else. And you get fig fortune and mangrove fortune, which will make things easier for you. So keep that in mind. There's also stuff over here which is boosters. This isn't super important in my opinion. It also shows you everything that you can currently upgrade, so that's proof that there isn't really like a third set of armor at the moment or other new logs or other new types of axes. Basically, you just go to this guy, you pick up a booster, and it applies the Foraging Fortune booster when combined with armor, equipment, and axes. It's nothing too expensive, nothing too crazy. You can go over here to apply it. I can go over to, let's just say, I don't know. I want to grab my armor, for example. Boom, I have this armor piece. Put it in here, put that in here, and as you can see, I get some nice Foraging Fortune out of it. Put it back on, and there we go. If at any point you're ever confused about what items are dropped from which trees, you're going to want to head over to Swoop and look at tree gifts. This is where you see all of this information. Keep in mind though, if you see like Forest Essence of 3, you may think, oh, that's not very good. It is scaling based on the size of the tree, and this doesn't keep into account the 33% to get double rewards amount. So do keep that in mind. You may get more, you may get less. Don't freak out about it too much. If you want to know more about hunting, and I highly recommend you do learn more about hunting, head to David. He tells you everything you need to know. Also, when it comes to David's cloak, I recommend upgrading the attribute menu a ton because this gives you a lot of sweep, which you need to chop down the trees effectively. So make sure you do that. You also get hunting and foraging wisdom out of this, which is useful. A lot of the things here are actually pretty nice in terms of rewards. The cloak becomes incredibly strong towards the middle and late game, so really do recommend leveling that up. There is actual reason to utilize this item in the late game, even if it is a hunting item and not necessarily a foraging item. In terms of other things about Galatea, the gameplay loop is pretty fun in my view. Certain hunting aspects and certain hunting things that you can do, like give you foraging buffs or give you Heart of the Forest XP or things like that. So I recommend exploring the island, seeing what's up, interacting with things. It's just really more enjoyable both in this version and with what we've been given. Try to interact with things, try to figure everything out. I highly recommend it. On the side of the Galatea Island in the mangrove area, you may find this red house, and inside you'll find coral. If you're struggling to survive under the water, well, this is where you're going to want to go. You can unlock fish families here, which allows you to turn in pretty much all of the existing fish in the game. Pretty much all of them are here. I think literally all of them are here. Basically, how this works is that you can utilize these fish to get you respiration and also fishing experience. You don't actually have to permanently give them in. Like when you click on this menu, they are just added to the menu. You don't lose the item. But do keep in mind, they become soulbound or co-op soulbound when you do this. So you can't trade them anymore. But I recommend you do this because it gives you more respiration. You need a lot of respiration to survive at the bottom of the water in the middle of the lake. And that's where the God Temple is, and that's also where a bunch of other things that are important for you are. And also there's a bunch of hunting stuff you can do there, so keep that in mind. God Temples, by the way, same deal as the beacon. Long and short of it is it just gives you a buff, so you're going to want to eventually unlock that. I'll have a whole separate video for that. I don't want to overbloat this video too much. Another smaller thing to keep in mind is this is just Island 1 of 3, with Island 2 apparently also coming out this year. As you can see, this is probably where that area will be. It's in the back west area of the island. Another thing to note is that there are fairy souls hidden throughout the island. I will have a video on that as soon as I find them all and get a good route going. But really, the exploration aspect of Galatea is completely up to you. While the island is not massive, I would say it's about end-sized, it does feel a lot more dense, and it feels like there's a lot more going on and a lot more to do on the island, which I really do appreciate. There are things to learn, NPCs to talk to. One of them just talks about how they hate the view so much. It's a pretty cool place, places and things to explore. I would also recommend heading to the library if you care about lore. You can go up to Loris over there, and he'll be able to explain more about how everything is working on Galatea and what that means for the larger story of Skyblock. The update is incredibly solid in my view. I'll have a first impressions video separately out at some point in the future, but I hope this progression guide gets you what you need to know. TLDR, farm up a bunch of fig trees, then farm up mangroves once you feel comfortable, do the contests every single day. You'll get a ton of Heart of the Forest XP that'll allow you to level up this menu. Make sure your auxiliary buffs are on, make sure you're getting your forest essence cashed in, and you should be good to go. Wrapping up here, I really think the admins did an absolutely incredible job on this release. They made a lot of new things happen, and I think they did a relatively great job at all of them. The only issue people are having with the update right now, in my view, is that certain aspects of the hunting and attribute system aren't perfect, but they can always work out the numbers in the future. I think that this is a great start to foraging. It's obviously not the end. This is a relatively early game island, and I really appreciate that it sets everything up super nicely. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below about the update. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Use code RAIL in the Hypixel store for 5% off your order, and look to the future, fellas, because I will see you then.